So today I want to tell you the story about the time when I could have helped some people who were desperately in need, but I didn't. I just stood by and watched. I kind of watched them drown in a very difficult and uncomfortable situation because I lacked the inner resources to step up and help. This, oh God, when did this occur? 10 years ago, maybe? Very long time ago, but still haunts me to this day because it was a very powerful lesson. I was walking through a shopping mall, the one local to my house, and I was just browsing, and I heard this screaming. Somebody was in pain, just screaming, yelling, shouting, and it was very loud, and you could see everybody kind of scanning, trying to find where it was coming from. I went to investigate. I wanted to see. It sounded like somebody was being tortured. Turn around the corner and there's one of those posts that sort of come down from the upper mezzanine holding it up. I'm on the bottom floor. And there's a young man, I can't remember him exactly. He would have been in his late teens, I guess, skinny guy. And he had wrapped his arms around the pole and he was screaming his head off. And attached to each leg was a middle to elderly aged woman, one on each leg. These two older women, typical older women, physically a little bit sort of chubby, obviously not strong enough for this guy. They're dressed up in their nice gears, and they're pulling on his legs while he clings to the pole, screaming. It sounds like a really bizarre situation, but for some reason, I was able to immediately figure out what was happening. Within a split second, I knew exactly what I was seeing. I was seeing somebody who's quite severe on the autistic spectrum having an episode of some kind. I later learned it's something called stimming. So if somebody is severely autistic, gets overstimulated, they kind of have a sort of panic attack. And you see this extreme behavior, screaming, hitting, curling up into a ball, unable to interact. And I just knew it. I knew that's what I was seeing. This guy is stimming. And these two women, I clearly identified them for what they were. They're his caregivers, maybe his family. And they're trying to get him off the pole because he's obviously got himself into a state and they need to get out of there. You could see that they were exhausted, frustrated, embarrassed. They weren't angry at him, as I recall. I didn't remember seeing that. But they were obviously suffering emotionally. And I think the main reason that they were suffering is not because he was doing this, it was because they had attracted an audience. A lot of people were watching. Now, my memory's not clear. This was a long time ago, but it tells me that people were pointing and laughing. Some people were calling out judgments. Some people obviously didn't get what was happening and were saying, leave him alone, that kind of thing. And I remember standing there being pulled in two separate directions at the same time, which left me frozen in place. There's a very strong urge to go and somehow help, to offer my support, throw my weight behind them, and get this guy off the pole so they can remedy the situation. I really, really wanted to give them a hand because they were so outmatched. And this was a totally understandable situation. They needed help. But on the other hand, as I watched them endure the judgment and the mockery and the slight bullying from the gathered audience, I was pulled in the absolute opposite direction to stay out of it because I didn't want to endure any of that myself. I didn't want to get tainted with the same embarrassment that they had brought on themselves. And the strength of both those urges was so equal that I did nothing. I just stood there and watched. My memory dissolves at this point. I don't know how it played out. I know I didn't go and help. I'm guessing that I either walked away or they resolved the situation without me. Probably I walked away. But for a very long time afterwards, to this day, really, I felt horrible about it. At first, I was angry at everybody else in the situation. Why didn't you help? Why did you sit there mocking? How couldn't you understand what was going on? How could you be so cruel? Or at least so indifferent? But that resentment towards the rest of the human race really just masked my own self-loathing. Why didn't I step up? Why didn't I lead the way? Why didn't I do something? And to think that my fear of being slightly embarrassed in front of total strangers whom I'd never see again was all that stopped me from helping these distressed trio of people. And that haunted me. I thought, I can't believe I chose to be a bad person by my own standards because I didn't want to be slightly temporarily embarrassed. What kind of choice is that? Now, I don't regret that situation exactly because the pain of guilt I felt about not pitching in, at least not trying to do something, became a catalyst, a motivator for me to do something. Fast forwards a few years now, or just a couple of years ago, I was in a bus station. I've told this story many times before. And this random dude started bullying this guy who was just sitting down. There's this guy sitting down. He was overweight, let's be fair. And this drunk guy had gotten off the bus and was just harassing him about being fat. It was just bizarre. It was so totally uncalled for. It was my first time in the UK. I didn't realize this kind of thing happens a lot there. It's really weird. It was like watching school kids, except they were full of grown-ass men. And this guy sitting on the chair is obviously someone who's been bullied his whole life. And, you know, there's a theory behind that. We attract bullies. And he's just sitting there kind of taking it, hoping it will end, you know, while this raging, tattooed alcoholic probably just giving him shit. No reason at all. And I felt that similar freeze in that moment. I was looking after our bags while Lucy was in the toilet, and so I didn't know, should I leave my bag, someone will steal something? Whatever excuse not to get involved was going through my head. It was quite legitimate, but still an excuse. And then Lucy came back from the toilet, and I can't remember if I actively recalled the situation with the autistic kid, but it's a concept that was sitting with me that you've got to do something because no one else will. And so I stepped up. You know, there was this moment I just took a step towards the situation, pushed through that fear barrier, and then the rest played out. I went and confronted the guy. I got him to leave the other dude alone. Nothing bad really happened. And I went back and consoled the guy who'd been bullied and said, you know, this isn't how all people think and feel. This isn't how we all are, you know, that you just got bad luck there. Even though I kind of almost resented him a little. I thought, you know, it's not your weight that brought this on. It's your lack of confidence. You need to work on it. But I was managed to just finally step through and possibly prevent this escalating to something much worse. It could have easily escalated to violence. The guy had like the scent of blood in his nostrils and he was losing it. When I confronted him, he cooled down. So make of that what you will. But I wanted to share that as a significant story of, in my mind, redemption, a failure that I hopefully learned from and was finally given the opportunity to make up for it with different people, but for myself, to redeem myself in my own eyes. Let me know what redemption stories you have, or stories that you're halfway through that you need to redeem. Put your comments below. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe and share this around, help us grow the channel. And get in touch, dan@brojo.org, if you want any more personal support with this. I'll see you guys next time.